Greetings, Earth travelers. Welcome to Astrology Roadshow's fourth episode, Astrological Highlights of the USA 2020 Presidential Election. Your likes, shares, and contact to astrologyroadshow.com and Facebook page are much appreciated. YouTube episodes will continue to help navigate in a fun and informative way this important and historical time in our world. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out. In this episode, we will briefly highlight some interesting information about the charts of each candidate, both Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and do so without bias. But before we go there, it would be appropriate to discuss some of the astrological events that are taking place during this election time. As you might expect, since it is 2020, these are some unusual aspects which serve to forewarn us as to what to expect. Let's start with Tecumseh's curse, which also can be viewed in astrological terms. This is legend derived from an argument that took place back in 1809 between the U.S. President Harrison and Shawnee leader Tecumseh. Beginning with Harrison, all presidents subsequently elected in a year ending in 0 have died in office, 7 U.S. presidents in total. The cycle breaks with Ronald Reagan, although he was wounded during an assassination attempt, and is also thought to have suffered with dementia before his term ended. This could be considered a sort of death. George W. Bush did not die in office either, of course, but there is still some debate about the validity of election results from that year in 2000. How could we possibly forget the counting of hanging chads and the popular versus the electoral vote dilemma? Astrologers have noted that these election years also coincide with Jupiter-Saturn conjunction cycles. 2020 is no exception, as explained in episode 1. Both Jupiter and Saturn conjunct 3 times in 2020. The final one occurs as they enter the sign of Aquarius together at 0 degrees on December 21st, the winter solstice. The possibility is there that the so-called curse will be ongoing with the 2020 election, especially considering both Trump and Biden's ages. They are the oldest candidates to ever run for the presidency. Another important conjunction occurs between Jupiter and Pluto on November the 12th. This is their third and final one this year as well. These planets' final conjunctions punctuate and mark the start of a new cycle which has been in the works all year between the planets Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter within Capricorn. As explained in previous episodes, the goal would be for restructuring government, business, and society as represented by this sign. It is fitting that the final aspect happens on the heels of a major election. The final effect on election day is Mercury. It will be moving direct on November the 3rd from its final 2020 retrograde. This usually would indicate that areas involving communication will become clear. Events leading up to the election will be unclear with regard to balloting issues. Because of this confusion and miscommunication, we will likely not see any relief until Mercury moves out of retrograde shadow path and fully into new territory. That occurs on November the 21st, which is also the day we move out of the sign of Scorpio, the sign of secrets, and into the sign of Sagittarius, the sign of truth. We may know the election outcome. Following the election, a lunar eclipse affecting North America occurs on November 30th. The moon is a sensitive indicator representing the public need and certainly its sentiments. This lunar eclipse may indicate that the public will need the entire month of November to basically come to terms with the election results. There may be a sense of relief and acceptance on the horizon happening in December.
The aspects at inauguration, noon on January 20, 2021, also signal possible outcomes to this election. A few days following Trump's 2017 inauguration, we experienced a major planetary conjunction of Mars and Uranus within the sign of Aries, and also coinciding then with a solar eclipse. These events ushered in a new era, as all conjunctions and eclipses are pivotal. As we know, it has been a dynamic 4 years. Aries would have it no other way. There is another Mars-Uranus conjunction occurring exactly on Inauguration Day in 2021, and in the sign of Taurus. It could be the end or a different new beginning for the U.S. presidency. Also interesting, this upcoming conjunction occurs near the moon's positioning at 1 degree Taurus and exact within 1 degree to Joe Biden's natal moon. The moon's positioning is always significant with regard to anything about the USA, since it is ruler of the USA's birth chart because the sun is in Cancer on July 4th. As mentioned astrologically, the moon expresses public sentiment, and this lineup of conjunction with moons would seem to be positive for Joe Biden. Let's explore the charts of these gentlemen to see if there are more clues. Donald Trump was born on a full moon and also as a total lunar eclipse is occurring. This is certainly no typical birth time and indicates something major is underway. His south node, conjuncting the Sagittarian moon, gives us clues that he will derive much sustenance from all things the moon would symbolize, including adoration from the public. It also says he is emotionally capable of a bit of witty sarcasm, courtesy of Sagittarius, which can be interpreted as insensitivity. His north node, conjuncting his sun placement in the 10th house, and also conjuncting Uranus, are the big indicators of the theme in his chart. These indicate the ultimate goal is career, ambition, and recognition, and that these occur along with sudden upheavals, usually for the better. Uranus rules Aquarius and also leads his chart pattern. So Aquarian ideals are top priority for Trump, and he has the ability to be a great humanitarian. Natal Jupiter is in trine and agreement with that stellium, and this further solidifies the odds he will be lucky and enjoy much wealth and success from his trials, tribulations, and ambitions. The fixed star of Regulus, otherwise known as Kingmaker, conjuncts his ascendant and further describes a person capable of winning at most every challenge. This would be his trump card, so to speak. The theme is complete by the positioning of his first house of identity, which starts at 29.58 degrees Leo, the last possible minute assigned to that sign, indicating in this lifetime he experiences much urgency to be master of his ego and will. The 29-degree mark starts off 4 of his zodiac houses. This natal chart is not easy for any opposition or foe. Certainly the faint of heart should not dare to challenge. In Donald Trump's progressed chart, his moon and Mercury are both nearing the end of a 2 to 3 year time period where they have been aspecting his natal Uranus. This has been happening during his presidency. We have indeed witnessed his communication style, Mercury, working to create his signature ups and downs, Uranus, which keep the public engaged. Moon. It's as though his usual super self has been on steroids. Also, Trump's progressed ascendant at 29 degrees Libra is currently exact with his natal ascendant at that advanced 29 degrees Leo. This is now working to bring even greater mastery to self-expression, positive energy, and creative potential. These progressions have really set the stage for the major personality and energy we are witnessing. But that's not all. This chart truly has a life of its own. During this election time, various transits are also aspecting within his chart. Of truly great interest, Trump is experiencing a nodal return during this election time, and that usually figures very auspiciously. The transiting North Node just passed over his natal sun. He is at the point in his life where the transiting nodes will conjunct his natal nodes at 20 degrees, thus matching up 2020. As mentioned in previous episodes, you just can't make this stuff up. It's too good. The transiting moon is also with an orb of these north nodes. He is at final approach to his life's goal and destiny. It would seem the public, as well as fate and karma, all indicators symbolically represented here, will decide if Trump's ultimate destiny, as determined in 2020, should be to continue as the USA's designated leader.
The first thing noticeable about Joe Biden's chart is how it has a basic pattern setup that is somewhat comparable to the USA birth chart of July 4th, 1776. Both of these start off with Sagittarius rising, and therefore Jupiter ruling this first house. Both charts are unusual in that they each have 3 T-square aspects, and Chiron is a major aspect point in both charts. But more interestingly, both charts have an aspect pattern Yod to the moon. Yod is otherwise known as the finger of God and is formed by 2 coinciding inconjuncting aspects. Inconjunct, otherwise known as quincunx, aspects are difficult, but as with all difficult aspects, they exist to build character. These similarities between Joe Biden and the USA birth chart may or may not indicate a fated synchronicity, but definitely jump out as unusual and noteworthy. Joe Biden has a stellium of planets in his 12th house ruled by Scorpio. His sun is there along with Mars, Venus, and Mercury, all the personal planets. The 12th house and Scorpio both tend to represent what is hidden or below the surface. This includes strength and weaknesses, but definitely there would seem to be much on a personal level that is not shown outwardly. His Neptune in the 10th house of ambition and career indicates he may be a master of creating illusions for a living. Both Jupiter and Pluto reside in the 8th house, which further describes the theme of his chart. Their locations here describes someone who is secretive, shrewd, and careful. He is very tuned in to other people and has a good sense of observation. The chart seems to be in stark contrast to Trump, whose personality is completely an open book. Biden's progressed Mercury is forming an opposition with natal Jupiter, the ruler of his chart. Progressed Mercury aspects can last for 6 months. This will help bring mental function and communications to an exceptionally clear and lucid level. New levels of faith, Jupiter, and understanding, Mercury, will be achieved as well. On election day, the transiting sun will conjunct Biden's natal Mars, and this is a strong and positive aspect for the candidate on that day. When taking a look at the composite chart for each president as compared to the USA birth chart, there are more remarkable similarities than not. The composite charts are each forming a funnel pattern where the leading planet is Uranus, and the focus in both is the moon. The composite for Biden and the USA does incorporate the similarities between those 2 charts, including Sagittarius rising, Jupiter rulership, and indicating the area of growth through challenge expressed by Yod to moon and the T-square to Chiron.
In final analysis, there are positive indicators and challenges in play for both candidates, but it is Trump's race to lose. It appears to be a very close election. The polarization of our country is really the overwhelming issue, and it is all in an effort to fine-tune our democracy at this time. The candidates themselves represent how polar opposite we have become, but remember the composite chart of either candidate to the USA chart has fundamental similarities. We must appreciate this process, but we must also work to come to terms with whatever the outcome. We are feeling the effects of the approach to our nation's first Pluto return in February 2022. This is monumental to the meaning of the USA and its importance on this planet as explained in episode 1. 2020 is a milestone leading up to this, as well as the official beginning of Pluto moving within orb of that return point and initial ingress into the sign of Aquarius. 1776 was the dawning and cusping into the age of Aquarius. Our nation has led the way with regard to the tenets of this sign and the new age. Our nation has much work to do together before the next election in November 2024. 1 month after that, in December 2024, Pluto does make its final entrance into Aquarius. So the election of 2024 will be equally as important as this one, if not more so. Right now, we may not believe that, but 2020 is a microcosm of the tenacity required of us over the next 4 years. The outer planetary conjunctions this year symbolically represent the restructuring work, especially within Capricorn, leading up to a final move forward together. The election in 2024 is similar to a final conjunction. It will be the one that solidifies our commitment as a nation, but also as citizens of the Aquarian age, as our democracy finally leaps forward to a new plateau once again. Much thanks for tuning in. Remember, every vote counts, especially yours. Our next episode will discuss implications of a planetary shift into the elemental air time period and age from the earth element. This is happening in synchronicity with an overall progression into the age of Aquarius.